Still hope everybody had a good Christmas. We got back to work on Christmas night. Guys got an extended break this year because of the game being on the 20th. We had 21st through 24th off, which is kind of long for this level. So only one game this week, a team that we have a lot of respect for. Team that's already won 8 games. They've won on the road. They have an identity. I don't know Coach well, but we kind of grew up in coaching together. I have a lot of respect for him. He's obviously coached a lot of different places, but he's assistant coach at Oklahoma, I believe, during the Final Four year with Buddy Held and those guys. And his team definitely has an identity. They're top 5 or 6 in the country with steals. They force a lot of turnovers. So obviously some of the issues we had in the Duke game, we better clean up pretty quick because this team has the same type of aggressiveness on defense. So hope we can have a good crowd. So appreciative of attendance to this point this year. I thought in New York we had a great showing of Red Raider fans. And so these first couple of home games, this one, our first 2 in the Big 12, before our students get back, we really call on our fans and our season ticket holders to come out and try to help us get off to a good start in this new year.
Some questions, Fred.
Coach, what are the early returns on Kevon McCullough in practice? Is it looking like he's maybe advanced enough that he's going to be able to help you?
He's not practicing right now. Yeah, he's still rehabbing. He's weight room, upper body only. I think his next doctor's appointment's in a couple weeks.
Now you guys are moving on from the Duke game, but what did, after looking at the film, what did you like and maybe some of the things you didn't really particularly care for in that contest?
Well, I liked the way we competed. I thought we showed up expecting to win the game. That's half the battle when you play teams like Duke. You really got to have an inner belief in your locker room with your veteran players and just with your program in general that you can compete. I thought, last year gave us that confidence to play on a national stage, especially in the month of March. So I liked our fight. I liked our competitiveness. We had a lot of poise in the game. We rebounded with Duke. We were right there man for man rebounding against them, so a lot of positives there. I think we held them to single-digit offensive rebounds, which is very difficult to do, especially when our defense was producing a lot of missed shots by Duke. They missed a lot of shots they normally don't miss, but we still were able to keep them off the board for the most part. So lots of positives. Obviously, a glaring weakness, we got to take care of the ball. We've never had a team turn the ball over that much, but you got to give Duke credit. It's the way they play. So it's just a great game. I mean, it's why you try to play the best because it exposes so many things about you. You learn so much about your team. So I think depending on how we react from this first loss of the year, it could be one of the more valuable games we played since we've been in Lubbock.
Coach, with coming back from New York and with having the few days off, how do you get your guys back into the mode, getting ready for a game and right where they were before, and with the emotion so high for Duke and everything?
Yeah, for us it's simple. We just get right back to the process. So started on Christmas night where guys got back in the weight room. We weighed each guy to make sure their body weight's where it needs to be. We immediately got back to nutrition, back in the film room. We studied a lot of the Duke game. And then now we're studying the next opponent, Rio Grande Valley. So to us, it's just that process. It never stops. That's where the secret is. We've got a saying where we say secret's in the dirt. We got that from Cowboy tight end Jason Witten, something that made a huge impression on me. All the bells and whistles and everything that goes around the sport. The secret really is in the dirt, and it's your day-to-day work. So that's where we try to get grounded. In terms of, you also really got to rely on the leadership of your team. With our team, it starts with those 4 seniors, and they've done a great job, especially Norwich kind of being the most experienced player of that 4 at this level and at this school. I thought those seniors have done a good job getting us ready, and the guys were ready to practice Christmas night.
Coach, you've said that non-conference is to prepare you for Big 12 play. As you're coming to the end of non-conference, how do you think this team has responded so far this year, and what do you want them to still improve on?
I think we're kind of a work in progress, like you just try to get your team better. Then when conference play, everybody starts 0-0. Sounds like a kind of cliche, but it's just so true. What you've done to this point just puts you in a position whether you're in the fight or whether you got to fight to get in the fight. And we're certainly, where we need to be right now. We've won some games on the scoreboard. We've learned a lot about our team playing on the road in different environments. And so we look for this last non-conference home game before the Big 12 starts just to be the next test. And again, It's a team that we have a lot of respect for. If we don't play our A game, if we don't bring our ball handling to the table, if we don't shoot a good percentage, this could be a tough game for us. It's a team that's they're well set up. They have an identity. I have a lot of respect for this coach and this team.
Brandon Francis kind of struggling to get his shots to drop in recent games. What are your conversations like with him to get him that confidence and kind of get him back in his groove?
Yeah, all I do when a guy is in a little bit of a shooting inconsistency is just make sure we take a look at his process, make sure he's getting the shots up, make sure he's shooting with discipline. So I don't really worry about Brandon's shot at all. What Brandon needs to do is find different ways to get his game going. You know, when you lose yourself in the team, it's normally when individual stuff takes care of itself. But, I mean, Brandon's been doing a much better job defensively. He's one of our best block-out guys. He's bringing a lot to the table. So making shots is something I really don't ever think about. To me, shot selection's a lot more important than whether the ball's going in or not. This will all balance out, and before we know it, we'll be sitting up here with Brandon. He'll have a great shooting night.
Along those same lines, you guys are near the bottom of the Big 12 in three-point percentage shooting, but you still have had a lot of success offensively. Are you wanting to get more of a balance between those two, or are you okay with where the flow of the offense is right now?
I saw that movie the other night, my daughter, Scrooge. Y'all seen that? It's kind of a Scrooge-type question, man. Bottom of the Big 12. I don't know. I could be pretty quick to show you there's been 3 or 4 games we've won with a three-point shot. You know, we're interested in winning more than where we are in any kind of statistical thing, but we've got 4 or 5 green light shooters on this team. 2 of the best shooters I've ever coached are on this roster. So I'm not really sure where we are statistically, but we're much more concerned with shooting percentages overall, winning, the balance between getting the free throw line and high percentage shots. But I'm very confident with this team's three-point shot. I think if somebody wants to dare us to beat them from there, I mean, I'm confident that we would.
You talked about Scrooge. Let's talk about Christmas a little bit then. You get a favorite gift or anything like that this holiday season?
Yeah, I did. I actually got an old school video game, like the old ones down in the arcade. And it's one that's got like the 60 games in one. So it's Gallagher on the front, but it's actually got the 60. You guys remember Dig Dug level? Frogger? Burger Time? Where I get really confused is with the Pac-Mans, man. Like, I grew up with Miss Pac-Man. I don't really remember Pac-Man. Not that old, but now, you know, they got like 7 different Pac-Mans. That confuses me. I'm just a old school Miss Pac-Man. Scrooge is a great movie, by the way, too. Wasn't trying to be negative. It's one of the best movies I've seen. I normally take naps during movies. If you ever see me in a movie and I don't say hello, it's probably because I'm asleep. But this movie kept me up. It was interesting. It had a plot. It was good.
So keeping it on Scrooge for a moment, what did you think of Mark Adams' video?
I saw it. Yeah, my daughter showed it to me. I'm normally not a big presence on all that stuff, but no, Coach is great. One of the if you think about the most successful people you know and the winners you know, they have kind of a selflessness about them. The best players I've ever coached are killers on the court, but they're really unselfish. They have a humor. They can make fun of themselves. And this is, certainly Coach Adams. He demands a lot of all of us, myself included, the players, but he's also the first to have some fun and things like that. Also, it lets you a little bit behind the scenes with Jennifer. Jennifer's not down with Walgreens or CVS. She's more Tiffany's. I didn't know what Tiffany's was. I had to Google it.
You touched on UTRGV getting a lot of steals and so forth. What exactly do they do defensively? Is it a team that pressures end-to-end or traps, or what is their defensive strategy?
Yeah, it starts with their coach. I mean, they have a real identity. You know, I'd like to think when people think of us, they think of certain things. And, you know, we just played Duke, and you think of their talent, their athleticism, how they speed you up. This team's no different. They have a blaring identity, and they want to speed you up. They want to cause turnovers. I think they get close to 9 steals a game. They turn people over around 18 times a game. This is more than Duke statistically. They're in the top 10 in the country in steals and turnovers forced and these kinds of things per possession played. Basically, about every 3 possessions when you play against Rio Grande, the other team turns the ball over in some kind of way. So they also recruit to it. A lot of times guys will have systems, but the pieces don't quite fit the system. This does. We all know Jordan that was here and did a great job as a young player on the NCAA tournament team with Tubby. he's a guy that's really, really athletic, and we know that firsthand. So they've just got good pieces that fit what their coach is trying to do.
The question about Kevon Moore. What is his status now, and at what point do you have to decide? Is it better to redshirt him, or do you think he'll play this year?
Yeah, it's right now. Right, we've been haven't been trying to dodge the questions at all, but just he's back practicing now, and I think the decision just has to be made whether we want to put him out there when he's not 100%. Because sometimes guys are good enough to play at this level if they're not 100%. Like if LeBron's 70% tonight, he could play. So it's just about that. It's always been a twofold decision, I think, for Kevon and his family and us as we assist their decision would just be, the value of playing immediately and then the long-term vision of how good this kid can be. But obviously he's practicing now pretty much full speed. He's going up and down. So I would think sooner than later a decision has to be made. In terms of him and his development, though, he's a special talent. He's done everything we've asked from him to this point. So if we can get him in games and he can contribute, I'd like to do that.
Coach, what is the key to improving ball handling at all? I mean, you mentioned that there were some issues at Duke. Are there any adjustments that you can make in that regard?
Well, I think a lot of it's decision-making. We've been a team that's been averaging around 10 or 11 turnovers a game. A lot of those have come late in the games where we've had some big leads. Really, when you look at the possessions that we're playing, around 8.5 or 9 turnovers a game is where we want to be. This game, obviously, blew that stat out. I think a lot of it is it's not just necessarily like making bad passes. It's eliminating travels. It's eliminating shot clock violations, turnovers, bad decisions. A lot of it is having the pieces in place. In this last game, the turnover fell on a lot of people, but it wasn't necessarily their fault because other guys weren't where they were supposed to be. So just like everything in basketball, you identify the problem, and then you work to improve it. So certainly we've spent some time the last couple of days, talking about our 24 turnovers against Duke.
One last thing from the Duke game. I don't know if you had a chance to hear Coach K's comments on your defense, and if you have, what does that mean to you as a coach to have a guy, a legend like that, compliment the style of play that you guys have?
Yeah, I didn't hear specifically what he said, to the media or anything, but he did have some really kind words for me after the game, as well as the day before when both teams crossed each other, or the morning of the game. Duke shot first, and then we shot second. We crossed in the elevator there at Madison Square Garden, and I think he kind of went out of his way to say something, I think, Culver and Matt after the game. So obviously you're talking about the best, if not one of the best coaches that ever did this. We try to emulate their program in a lot of ways, as do most people. And so I think, if anything, it just kind of validates what we do and who we are. But we're very appreciative of his, kind comments about our team after the game.